Let's go ahead and show the count now on the censure vote in the House. It's happening right now, real-time vote. A couple things to look at. The yeas are 213 Republican, Democrats, 9 Democrats voting with Republicans to get you to 222. We thought the magic number was 217, depending on how many people were present. And at the moment, we believe the censure will succeed. Aisha Hazi's watching that from the Hill as well. Aisha?
Yeah, we have somebody inside the chamber right now trying to figure out who those 9 Democrats are. That's a big one because we were told earlier that the Democratic whip, Catherine Clark, did not advise her members on how to vote today. So we are seeing some yays and some present votes as well. Interestingly enough, Congressman Green himself voted present yesterday when they tried to delay this resolution, they tried to table the resolution. So we'll see how he voted today. But we are waiting now for Speaker Johnson, who is presiding over this vote, to gavel this vote for passage. And then what will happen next, what you'll see, is that he will call Congressman Green to the well. Oh, there we go. Let's listen in.
To answering present. The resolution is adopted. Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid on the table. The House will come to order. The House will come to order. Shh. Will Representative Green present himself to the well? By its adoption of House Resolution 189, the House has resolved that Representative Al Green be censured, that Representative Al Green forthwith present himself in the well of the House of Representatives for the pronouncement of censure, and that Representative Al Green be censured with public reading of this resolution by the Speaker. The House will come to order. The House will come to order. What's it?
You want to let him keep doing this, or until they clear?
The House will come to order. Clear the well, please. Clear the well. The House has to continue its business.
And if you want to clear a recess, you can do that too. And the mic's open.
Just say the House is in recess. Pursuant to Clause 12A of Rule 1, the House will stand in recess, subject to the call of the chair.
Got it. Okay, guys, here we go now.
Is Aisha still with us?
Yeah, that passes. Aisha, you're still with us. I was looking at this. Jamal Bowman about 2 years ago was the last member of Congress who was censured. And he was the one who pulled the fire alarm. Go ahead.
I just want to jump in really quickly because what was supposed to happen, so what's happening right now is we're trying to get order in the chamber, because what you're supposed to see next is Speaker Johnson admonish Congressman Green, and that hasn't happened yet. And what Democrats are doing right now is they're disrupting the chamber floor, and they're singing and they're surrounding him in the well, which they're not supposed to do. So I believe Speaker Johnson is trying to get a hold of this. Let's listen in now, because I think this is happening now where he's admonishing him. No, it looks like the House is in recess now. So we're going to try to figure out what just happened there, if they can, if they're going to come back and try to do this. But the censure resolution did pass. They were able to censure him. And yes, you were talking about Jamal Bowman. This is now the 4th Democrat in probably the last 2 years here. I'm going to see if Congressman Scalise, what just happened in there? Were you able to admonish him? Okay, so that was Steve Scalise, and he said that they have censured him, and so it looks like that is it, and they might be done for the day. But 4th Democrat now in the last 2 years to be censured by House Republicans.
So, Aisha, you are, by the rules, required to stand in the well of the House and be issued your condemnation.
Right.
Did that happen, or did we miss it?
I didn't see that happen. I didn't hear that happen. I just started hearing the Democrats singing and sort of like creating a disruption around Congressman Green. So we'll try to find out from one of our producers who was in the chamber. But an interesting note, Bill, here is that at least 9 Democrats voted along with Republicans here to censure Congressman Green, and there were a few others that voted present as well. So that's an interesting takeaway, too. Obviously, there were some Democrats that felt that what he did just wasn't right.
No.
Aisha, so there's a lot of reporting with Democrats not going on the record, but talking to reporters like you saying they were mortified about what happened on Tuesday. They felt they had no direction from their leadership, which would be Hakeem Jeffries. They're frustrated. They're embarrassed. They're worried. Yeah. And at some point, do you think any of them will be willing to go on the record? Because to me, I don't see how they get out of the wilderness until they have somebody willing to say enough.
Well, I would imagine the Democratic leadership was not too happy with what happened Tuesday night. I mean, they were hoping that there wouldn't be any outbursts. I mean, they were advising people, obviously, attend if you want. We'd like everybody to be there. We'd like to show unity in the Democratic conference. We won't force you to come and attend. Several people, obviously, we saw leave in the middle of the president's speech, but I don't believe leadership wanted to see this kind of an outburst, because here's the thing, what happens is that nobody talks about their messaging anymore. Everybody just starts talking about Congressman Green and all the showiness of what Democrats were doing, and it is embarrassing. There were plenty of members before this joint address that were saying they were hoping that there wouldn't be any outbursts, that there wouldn't be any showmanship, and that, obviously they would protest in their own way silently, whether it was by holding up those, paddles in protest. But there were plenty of Democrats that did not want to see what happened go down. But none of the Democratic leaders in there, Hakeem Jeffries, Catherine Clark, Pete Aguilar, they just sat there quietly. They were about 10 feet away from the guy, and they didn't do anything to get him to sit down.
Nobody was really defending him. So,
no.
Okay, thank you so much, Aisha.
All right, Sandra. Democrats' internal friction now playing out in public after the party's protests fell flat during President Trump's joint address. A senior House Democrat tells Axios, quote, "Everyone is mad at everyone." Our next guest, Democratic strategist Doug Schoen, laid into his party in a new Fox News column, and he joins us now. Let's prime the pump here, Doug, by reading a little bit of what you said on foxnews.com. You say, quote, "It does not appear to me that the political party that I continue to belong to with increasing difficulty has any answers at all. It is as if the Democrats have gone beyond even Clinton campaign strategist James Carville's advice to stay silent and, quote, play possum. They have become trivial and almost irrelevant." So why do you remain a Democrat?
Well, it's a good question, John, and it remains one that it is in active review. I can say I'm not a Republican. I disagree with many of the policies that President Trump so articulately outlined and think he's gone too far. But that being said, my party is not doing what Bill Clinton did when the Gingrich Revolution came in 1994, which is to offer a set of alternatives that recognize the American people want border security, a reduction in inflation, tougher policies on crime, and immigration reform. Until we do that as a party, we Democrats remain irrelevant, sadly.
So here is the latest response from the Democrats. It's in the form of a TikTok video that plays off of the Mortal Kombat Choose Your Fighter area of the game. Watch this.
Choose your character.
Yeah, the general reviews of that, Doug, are that it's pretty cringeworthy. What do you think?
I was going to say very cringeworthy and completely irrelevant. I want alternative policies that recognize the way the American people feel and are more moderate than some of the Trump policies, not videos, not signs, not demonstrations, not protests, but policy articulation, which, John, has been absent and remains absent.
So here's how John Fetterman explained it on X. He said what the Democrats did at the joint session speech, a sad cavalcade of cell phones and unhinged petulance. It only makes Trump look more presidential and restrained. We're becoming the metaphorical car alarms that nobody pays attention to, and it may not be the winning message. And we talked to Joseph Knowles, who was a former Democrat who was one of the president's guests at that speech to a joint session. Here's what he told us about leaving the Democrat Party. Listen here.
I'm very disappointed in the Democrats and how they handle things. And you know what? I feel like I made a damn good choice of not voting for them anymore.
So my question is, as we watch this all unfold, who is guiding the Democrats? Who is the guiding light? Who is writing the strategy for what they're doing?
John, the answer is no one is. And if anyone knows who that person is, I'd love to be introduced to him and to tell them that whatever strategy they think they're articulating is just plain wrong. We are a rudderless party without leadership, without ideas, without policies, and certainly without messages.
Somebody postulated the other day that maybe it's a Republican who's guiding them. I don't know.
Well, I think the Republicans do a better job for themselves than the Democrats have done for themselves for a very long time.
Doug, good to catch up with you. Let us know if you change your affiliation. Appreciate it. Good to see you.
I certainly will.
Riley, I'm a millennial. I know my fellow millennials will not respond well to that. You are Gen Z, with whom went for Trump in greater numbers than the first round, and it was very impressive. Do you think this gets Gen Z?
Again, it goes back to who in the world is advising the DNC
I guess no.
Party. No, this does not resonate. We look at this as cringy. That's the new word, right? This is cringy. This is out of touch. And that's what the Democrats have proven themselves to be time and time and time again, is totally out of touch with reality. They don't know how to communicate with common sense, everyday Americans. That's been made very clear on their stance with issues such as allowing men into women's sports. Governor Walz putting tampons in boys' bathrooms, boys as young as, fourth grade, referring to Latino individuals as Latinx, totally out of touch. And of course, this skit falls in line with that.
You know, Emily, I'm watching these women dance, and I think I'm being kind by saying dance. These are not good moves. And I just wonder how President Trump can get on a stage and do this like mechanical dance move, and it goes viral and it really captures the attention. But this just kind of falls flat.
Actually, you guys, I loved this. I think
you loved it.
Yep, I know.
What?
I know. It's because, look, I applaud anyone for trying, and I actually thought this was really cute, and I feel like I see, and they're really getting into it, and good for them. But here's the thing: is it effective? No. And the whole point is, when you play, cute or clever, as Michigan State Senator McCowan said, it doesn't resonate. So. Look, I don't want to knock them for trying to getting out there, because it's hard for people to do that and to be physical and whatever. But the whole point is, if you are totally out of tune with not just messaging, but the entire value system of the 75+ million Americans that voted, for a certain, like they are so out of touch in so many different value areas. So this is out here. It's completely separate. It's ineffective. But the video itself, guys, I give them an A for effort.
You know what? You are way too kind, Emily. I'm about to go to someone who's not as kind, named Brian Comey. But before I go to Brian, I want to tee you up with Governor Gavin Newsom, who sounds very, very different than he usually does.
A lot of folks were talking about that Carville article where he talked about
roll over and play dead.
Roll over, but in essence, he said that. I think it was a strategic retreat. I'm thinking about, we're going to stand back and watch you run circles around us for 6 months. Struck me as not necessarily the best advice.
Yeah, I hope you guys retreat.
You kind of like the advice.
More for us.
You like the advice.
There's no opposition. There's no activist spark. You guys are posting these cringe videos on social media.
What are the videos? What are the ones that
I don't
are
know,
most
this
cringy?
like harmonious thing of like 22 senators all saying the same thing.
You didn't like that, yeah.
I didn't like it. Go ahead. Go do more of that.
What do you do?
Please.
What do you do? Seriously, Charlie Kirk, give us some advice.
Get better ideas, Governor.
Brian.
Better idea.
I'll tell you what, it was Cory Booker. Cory Booker went up to Chuck Schumer 2 weeks before the election and said, oh, by the way, we're getting our butt kicked on social media and podcasts. Really? Thanks for the heads up. Why not wait longer? And then afterwards he says, we got to get better. So, Senator, you brought this to me, so you take the lead. This is his brainchild. And I don't know how you guys feel about it, but the one person who made her name in social media is AOC.
Yeah.
So why would you not start with her and work your way back?
Yeah.
And I don't care if you like her message or if you'll vote for her or not. She knows social media. She's charismatic, and start there. And then you go, okay, I don't like the message, but I like your approach. Why are you doing it in your kitchen? Why are you so close? Should we curse a lot? I mean, why? Trying to be cool and curse? What are you, in 5th grade? Trying to be one of the guys?
Yeah.
You know, it's just crazy to see a 82-year-old person opening up with a curse word to explain how they're not happy that Donald Trump won an election.
Yeah, you undoubtedly are correct in that. I remember, my sister works in social media, and she said the keyword's organic. You want things to be organic. And I remember several years ago, AOC put out this Instagram Live, and I started watching it, and I couldn't take my eyes off it. She was building IKEA furniture while talking about politics, and it was organic. I wouldn't call that dancing necessarily organic. Molly, this was a Politico article. There was a liberal pollster who did a poll. Here's what they found. A plurality of voters, 40%, said Democrats do not have a strategy whatsoever for responding to Trump. Now, according to the same survey, it was by liberal firm Blueprint that was shared first with Politico. Another 24% said Democrats have a game plan, but it's a bad one. A paltry 10% said the party has a solid technique for dealing with Trump. That is from a Democratic survey.
And I think this is the spaghetti against the wall, the whole phase of the Democratic rebuild. They don't know which way to go. They don't know exactly how to make it happen. They know they got beat, even in the things that they thought they were winning, with the youth, with things like podcasts, and then they got just wiped out with all of that. And now they're just trying to be creative. They're throwing the spaghetti against the wall. They're hoping something sticks. They hope a person comes up from the ashes and saves them with ideas and an appeal. And so they're trying to find that person. They're trying to find that approach. And the little Mortal Kombat video, Gen X flashback, maybe not will work. But I think they're just looking for it. They're trying everything.
Maybe they should try the Trump dance.
Yeah.
That may work. So go try that, guys. I doubt they will. All right.
Cracks are emerging in the Democratic Party over protest against President Trump's joint address to Congress, and now pressure is mounting on top party leaders to change course or forever remain in the electoral doghouse. Let's bring in Emily Oster, journalist and activist, and Megan Hayes, former director of message planning for former President Biden's White House. So the criticism is coming obviously from Republicans, but also coming from Democrats. Listen to what John Fetterman posted on X. He said of Tuesday's address, he wrote this on Wednesday, a sad cavalcade of cell phones and unhinged petulance. It only makes Trump look more presidential and restrained. We're becoming the metaphorical car alarms that nobody pays attention to, and it may not be the winning message. The question I have is, who's responsible for the message? Who's developing this strategy?
I think that's a really great question to ask. I think that the Democrats need to figure that out very quickly, because we're going to be going into the midterm soon, and these Democrats are going to start to get primaried because they are not coming up with a message, and I don't think the American people see what they're doing for them. Even diehard Democrats don't think that the Democratic Party is showing up for them. They need to get back to focusing on the economy, on the jobs report numbers came out today. The economy is, people still can't afford things. Democrats need to coalesce around those messages and get ready for the midterms.
I'm going to be gentle to Megan because I mentioned this and she just about lost it. This TikTok video that came out with an influencer and then a number of Democratic members of Congress sort of playing into the whole Smash Brothers or Mortal Kombat thing. Let's watch this.
Choose your character.
Now, either whoever made that really punked them or they went into that willingly.
You know, it looks like it came too natural to them, and they definitely did that willingly. But the problem is, I'm all for a good time. If this was the Republicans doing it, I'd applaud it right now. Personally, as someone who loves social media and I'm on it all day, every day, this would be great if they understood that there's a time and a place for these activities. During the DNC, this would have been really cute, super fluffy and fun. But now when your cities, especially these congresswomen, when your cities are burning, your cities are overrun by illegal immigrants, there's a crime surge, people can't afford their groceries, like Megan said, and you're showing them that your priority is TikToks, that's not showing your constituents that you're getting the job done. It's showing them we're partying over here while all of our constituents are suffering.
Well, let's ask the message expert about this message.
I mean, to your point, they're on TikTok, but they're not even talking about a message. They're not even talking about what they are going to do for the American people and how they are going to try to combat some of these things happening in Congress with the reconciliation bill coming up and how that they are going to fight on behalf of them. And I go back to Democrats need to be really careful right now. They are going to have primaries coming up in these midterms that I don't think they're expecting, because I don't think that anybody thinks that the Democrats are doing anything for them.
In terms of what the message should be, we had Doug Schoen on, and he's been a Democrat all his life, saying he may not be long for the party, though. Here's what he thinks they should be focusing on. Listen here.
I want alternative policies that recognize the way the American people feel and are more moderate than some of the Trump policies, not videos, not signs, not demonstrations, not protests, but policy articulation, which, John, has been absent and remains absent.
I mean, that's the stuff you win on, right? You don't win on a TikTok video, choose your fighter.
Definitely not. I think that their problem is that they lack this transparency, or they lack an agenda of what they're actually going to implement, like Megan said as well. And, you know, you see as the constituents that they're not going to win this midterm, because when you see that your congressman or congresswoman is failing you and they're focused on social media, that's where the big problem comes in. But I want to quote Bobby Kennedy Jr., who said it best. He always says, I didn't leave the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party left me. And this is
Reagan
proof.
Said the same thing.
Well, they copied
longer time ago.
But the truth is, you see Tulsi, you see Bobby, now you see this gentleman that are all switching parties, and it's not even because they're a Republican. It's just the Democratic Party went so off the deep end. Like this morning in the House of Congress, they're singing out of resistance for Donald Trump. They've lost their minds, and people are starting to wake up to the madness.
You can't even censure a member of Congress these days without people singing in protest.
Well, I think the biggest problem there is that they became the story, and not the actual things that are happening and lowering costs for the American people.
Yeah, well, they seem to have a penchant for doing that. Megan, Emily, great to see you. Thanks so much.
And one of President Trump's special guests at the joint address got more FaceTime with him at the Oval Office yesterday.
What a good-looking family, huh?
There's one more thing I got for you, a big hug.
Okay, good. That's very nice. Look at that family you got, huh?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Very nice. How are you? Nice to see you, man. Nice to see you. That was a big evening last night, right?
Yes, it was.
That was a big evening.
13-year-old superstar cancer patient DJ Daniel was made an honorary member of the U.S. Secret Service Tuesday. Despite that heartwarming tribute and moment, Democrats turned the cold shoulder. The White House says that snub certainly may have backfired.
Democrats didn't stand to keep men out of women's sports. They couldn't even clap for a girl who got her head smashed in by a man on a volleyball court. Democrats didn't stand for an innocent and beautiful child who is surviving brain cancer. Last night was a very clarifying moment for our country. The Democrats exposed themselves as the party of insanity and hate, the party that wants to put America last.
Former West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin and John Fetterman said this, sir. Thanks for being here. He said a sad cavalcade of self-owns and unhinged petulance. It only makes Trump look more presidential and restrained. We're becoming the metaphorical car alarms that nobody pays attention to, and it may not be the winning message. I'm going to take that metaphor a step further. When that car alarm's going off, it's really annoying to everybody else.
Whose is it?
What do you think about it?
No, John's absolutely spot on. It was so sad. I kept thinking, and I was watching the delivery. I had sat there before in that same situation when the president first came. President Trump came and he was speaking about energy and things about coal and things I know about the energy security we need for our country. And I was standing up, and I think people were hissing me behind, and I was the only one standing. I kept thinking, that's awful. They shouldn't be that disrespectful to the president. They were hissing me, not him, for standing.
Listen, this is Fetterman. David Axelrod on CNN called Al Green despicable. Michael Steele on MSNBC thought whoever got the bingo sign should be fired. We never learn is one quote. He owned us. It's almost like whatever Trump does or say, just make sure you do the opposite over and over again. Here's a quote. We can't just be the party that barks at Trump. Until we learn that lesson, we're going to lose. He made us look like what we are, blanking buffoons.
The biggest thing
now,
is...
you're on the outside now.
I am.
You have a chance to advise in a more neutral way. Well, who is the leader of this party? Who's giving them direction? Why would they make such a spectacle of something that was not necessary?
As far as within the House and the Senate, the leadership is basically Hakeem Jeffries and his team, as far as in the House, and Chuck Schumer and his team, and far in the Senate. As far as a national leader who people are rallying around as former Democrats or Democrats now or independents trying to get their vote, they have to understand the people have spoken. They elect Donald Trump as president. Every red-blooded American should want your president to succeed. If you're in a position of being a House member or a Senate member and you can do something positive, do it. Don't worry about the politics. It'll take care of itself. Make sure our country succeeds, and your leader has to succeed. And when you're going to be against something, do it respectfully. Do it with decorum. Not able to stand up and be able to clap on something with a human touch that had, that young man, the young boy, what he wants to do. That's just unconscionable.
I think the point is, Senator, you can disagree on policy.
Yeah.
And you can express
But not
that.
on human
But not on the personal.
No.
Go ahead, Dan.
On Gutfeld last night, I suggested that the Democrats should just declare bankruptcy, because that way you can move forward and start anew.
Well, here,
do you think that they're at a point now where they realize, like, for example, I'm going to read this other one about, this is from Trump. He said the Democrats should lose the midterms based on their behavior. Republicans can take what happened last night and win any race in the country. And you add that to the trans athlete issue, where you had 45 Democratic senators all vote against protecting women's sports.
Well, first of all, let's look at the country right now. You only have 7 battleground states, and all the money and time and efforts being spent in 7 states going for that independent, undecided voter. Okay, other than that, out of 435 congressional districts, about 400 are already predetermined. So there's not a whole lot of wiggle room here. With that, I just told everyone, look at this. What do you need? Can you say, I'm sorry, we made a mistake? I didn't intend to. Maybe you made the wrong calculation. And they can't say that. Nobody in Washington.
But what about the liberal media that pushes it even further than the Democrats and gets them into this position?
You cannot defend bad behavior. And you can't make wrong right. You can try all you want to. Just say you made a mistake on the border. I was preaching from day one. Are you all crazy? Have you opened up basically with asylum at the border? What's your reasoning for doing this? So we made a mistake. I don't know why they made their determination to do that, the previous administration. And they should be able to live up to that. And so we made it, we'll fix it. President Trump is who he is. He came in and told you what he was going to do. And he's only been in it less than, what, 50 days, 45 days, you said?
Yeah,
45 days. Give him a chance to see what happens. He'll make adjustments. He was not elected as comforter-in-chief. He was elected as commander-in-chief. You might not like the way he commands, okay? But let's give him a chance to see if it's successful. Try to make it successful. And when you disagree, do it respectfully and say, Mr. President, I think I know where you're coming for. Could I give you some input?
So on that point, give us one policy, one prescription, one law that they could agree on.
Debt reduction in this country. We're in a situation now at 36.
Are Democrats prepared to go along with
Well, they better speak up. They better speak up, because that's where they could find it. The president keeps saying, we're making these cuts. It's painful right now. We know that. There's another way to do that if you can, but if you're making cuts and they're just going at it.
Would you vote to abolish the Department of Education?
I don't know about abolishing it, but I would revamp it. I mean, can anyone say education's attaining what it should be in America? Are we #1 or in the top 10 in any category? We're not. So all this needs to be. He's shaking it up. It needs to be shook up. But let's do it in a practical way that we get good results. Someone better take the debt of this nation, $36.2 trillion. Mike Mullen told me my first meeting at Armed Services, the greatest threat the United States faces is the debt of our nation will take us down before any other foreign power.
He's been saying that for a while, too.
He has, and he's been right on. And what happens, every individual owes $104,000. So if you have children, just think, every child you have, $104,000 of debt. If you want to pay all that off, and all of us chipped in $104,000, it's impossible. So it's unattainable, but it's unsustainable.
Senator, thank you for your time. We're out of time.
Great to see
Whatever
you.
we can do to help, let's pull together.
Pop by more often.
We need Democrats and Republicans working as Americans. This American party, we're all in it together.
People in Washington are watching this program, and they're listening to people like you.
Well, they're all my friends on both sides of the aisle. They're all good people there. Come together for the purpose of making this country what it should be, get our finances in order, take care of our families.
Thank you,
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you all.
The House of Representatives just censured Democratic Texas Congressman Al Green over his outburst at Trump's joint address to Congress. You're looking at it there. Final vote was 224 to 198. Now, 10 Democrats voted yes, just 10, but I suppose that's something. And 2 Democrats voted present. Now, Green was escorted out of Tuesday's remarks after he refused to stop interrupting the president. He was screaming, "You have no mandate." He was waving his cane in the air. It was a whole lot of theatrics. Most Democrats maintained their support for Al Green and his actions. Now, while he was getting censured, his supporters broke out in song. Watch.
By its adoption of House Resolution 189, the House has resolved that Representative Al Green be censured, that Representative Al Green forthwith present himself in the well of the House of Representatives for the pronouncement of censure, and that Representative Al Green be censured with public reading of this resolution by the Speaker. The House had come to order. The House had come to order.
They broke out in song. Maybe it's time to come up with that postmortem about the election rather than singing. But time will tell if they choose to do so. Hello, everyone. This is Outnumbered. I'm Kayleigh McEnany. Here with my co-host, Emily Compagno. Also joining us, Molly Line, Fox News correspondent. For the very first time on the couch, we are so excited to have her. She's a fighter. She's a warrior for women. Riley Gaines, Outkick contributor and host of Gaines for Girls on Outkick. Welcome, Riley. And Brian Kilmeade, Fox and Friends co-host and host of The Brian Kilmeade Show on Fox News Radio and One Nation with Brian Kilmeade, now airing Sundays at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Riley, we all saw you sitting there in the gallery. You were there as Al Green went totally nuts, and I'm just curious what you saw.
Well, first, let me just say I am so excited to be on the couch with you guys. As you mentioned, I was there. I got to witness the theatrical performance in person. Immediately, my first response is how embarrassing. Embarrassing not just for Democrats, but I felt secondhand embarrassment being in that room. I know other countries, they're watching this. Constituents, civilians across America, they're watching this, and it's embarrassing. Whether it's Al Green, whether it's the pink costumes, of course, their shirts, the storming out, then going on X and publicly announcing that they left, which, newsflash, if you have to publicly announce you left a room, chances are no one cares you were in the room in the first place. Entirely theatrical. I just want to know who is advising the DNC, the Democratic Party, because I believe they need to lose their job.
Yeah, they appear leaderless and rudderless, and even some Democrats would agree with you, Riley. So check this out. Axios had these quotes. Some of them were on background, meaning they didn't attach their name. Other Democrats attached their name. Here they are, centrist Democrat. What Green did was inappropriate. He became the story, not the price of eggs. Bingo. George Latimer, he's a moderate Democrat in New York. When a president, my president, your president is speaking, we do not interrupt. We don't pull those stunts. Jared Golden, another centrist. My take is that the average American thought the optics were pretty bad. Another Democrat, people could have just sat on their hands, but we ended up looking like infants when Trump is actually the toddler, he said. Well, there is one person who sits on the panel of The View who thinks more Democrats should have looked like infants. Let's watch her.
While I didn't watch it, I was looking for signs of an opposition party, which is what the Democratic Party must be at this point, not a resistance, because resistance is passive. When Representative Al Green stood up and said, you don't have a mandate to take away Medicaid, and he was tossed out, I expected the rest of his Democratic caucus, his rest of his colleagues to walk out with him.
Brian, so join the party, she's saying.
Another reason not to watch The View. You give us a reason every day. You just roll a clip like that. I was actually over the Senate camera in the gallery, too. Had a chance to see some of the antics. And he was the one who started impeachment 6 years ago, 8 years ago, right? Before we even knew what he was talking about. And then he starts saying some nonsense about Medicaid. It's not grounded in any reality. And he stood up, and I'm just wondering why the sergeant at arms who was ever doing security, before they went to Al Green, did you notice she went to Nancy Pelosi?
Yeah, I did.
So I'm thinking to myself, why are you going to Nancy Pelosi? She's not even speaker. So does she know about it? And then he goes and talks. And then he goes back to Nancy Pelosi again. And then Al Green, finally, another sergeant, then he gavels down. Another security person walks up who doesn't look like a security person. And they just basically tell him, you got to go. And he leaves. And he's giving interviews after. He has no regrets. Just such an embarrassment. And I don't think that the Democrats are really scrambling right now because, like you said, every president's got weaknesses. And maybe they want to use the eggs. Maybe they want to say inflation's not down enough. We didn't even get to that because all we're talking about is them not standing for the return of Mark Fogel, a student getting accepted to West Point, taking down illegal revenge porn. Are they for revenge porn? I'm surprised. They didn't seem to be different. What about the capturing of an ISIS agent that had the explosion at Abbey Gate, the mastermind of it? You can't cheer for that?
Yeah, you're exactly right. And House Speaker Mike Johnson notes that Al Green was the first congressman to ever have to be removed from a presidential address. He joins this stellar group of individuals who have just been censored in recent years. We'll pull up their faces. Jamal Bowman, he was censured for pulling that fire alarm. Rashida Tlaib for her remarks, many characterized as anti-Semitic. Adam Schiff, who led Russia collusion. And Al Green, you're exactly right, led the impeachment hoax, the first one just a few months into the Trump presidency. You know, Emily, Brian made a key point. the message about the cost of eggs got lost. And Democrats put out this video where they were all saying the same message. It was Liz Warren, Chuck Schumer. It was the first time you'd really seen them singing from the same song sheet, but that got totally overshadowed by these crazy protests.
Of course. And look, to hammer out your point about crazy, I thought Brett McClintock had the best quote where he said, you know, in this lack of decorum, this crazy outburst wasn't perpetuated by some lunatic in buffalo horns. He said that was an elected representative of the United States Congress. And when you put it like that, and when you contrast his behavior with his lack of support for a constituent of his, Sweet DJ Daniels, who his father says lived there, that is preposterous. And these are the same body that is apparently paid to represent half of the United States, but they're doing anything but. And I also want to point out those 10 Democrats, including Case, including Houlihan, and more. So they voted to censure their own member of the party for that deplorable behavior. But where were they, however, on voting for biological men in sports? Where were they during the entire thing when there were so many reasons for them to at least clap and show support for the things that unite us all instead of simply dividing it further by sitting there sullen? So to me, showing somehow a modicum of support against for accountability against that behavior, I wish they'd gone a step further and shown us that they were Americans before they were children of their party.
Yeah, in my initial look at the list of 10 who voted, I do not believe any of them were one of the two who voted to keep biological men out of women's sports,
Correct.
making your exact point. Molly, you know, DJ Daniel, which Emily brought up, the 13-year-old, that amazing little boy who had 13 brain surgeries, America just fell in love with. He captured our hearts. There was one Democrat who said this on Background to Axios about that. Not standing for Trump would have been a fine strategy, but you need to separate him from the kid with cancer. Why couldn't they do that?
Well, and that exactly, the not standing for DJ may have been worse than the being pulled out after shaking and screaming with your cane. And I think it's worth noting that DJ was not the only child that had a presence there in that room that had survived brain cancer. There was a woman from Massachusetts, a mother that went there with the Democratic rep from from Massachusetts, talking about her son Declan, who's 4 years old, who's been battling brain cancer as well, and the need for NIH funding, and the need for investment in childhood cancer, which is a nonpartisan issue that everyone can get behind. And raising that was part of what President Trump tried to do last night, too, saying reversing this trend when it comes to childhood cancer, one of the top priorities. So there's common ground to be found, and standing might have brought some of that common ground to the forefront. But I think what Democrats want to do is fight for those things, for NIH funding. They want attention on that and not on the shaking of a cane, the not standing for DJ. They want to fight for those types of things. Hakeem Jeffries tried to shift the dialogue towards criticizing the Republicans on the economy when he was asked about green. So that's going to be a challenge for the Democrats to find a way to talk about the things that they want to talk about instead of being pulled into these types of discussions.
Yep. And when Biden mentioned the March on Selma, Mike Johnson stood. When Biden mentioned Hamas and the individuals who were captured by Hamas, Mike Johnson and Republicans stood, but Democrats couldn't get their butts out of the seats to stand for a kid with cancer and Laken Riley's mom. What a shame. House Speaker Mike Johnson spoke about the censure of Congressman Green earlier this morning on America's Newsroom.
The party is in disarray. You see that. They don't have an identified leader. They don't have a vision. They don't have a platform they can run on. And so the only word I can describe it is they're flailing right now. So that's why they resort to these antics. They want to fight Trump. They want to fight the America First agenda. They want to fight all of us. And so they debase themselves by showing up on the House floor and acting like children.
We have a special announcement. House Speaker Mike Johnson, at this time tomorrow, will be sitting where Brian Kilmeade is in the center seat, about numbered for the very first time. We cannot wait to talk to him.